It's a Dungeons & Dragons podcast that'll really make you think. We're spicing up the rules, mashing up the homebrews, and stirring up the debates. Add a little touch of our own, and you have Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything. With your host, the Pirate Captain.
It's not because I took on an entire ship by myself and walked away unscathed just off good looks alone.
Chef Bolgg.
I have in my rules for the original AG. Don't be a dick.
And Loke the Bard.
Lock the bard. Bans all bards from his campaign. That wouldn't go over very well.
And without further ado, here are your hosts.
Bolgg, what be ye doing, my old buddy, old pal?
It's called bard training.
Hey!
We're not having another one of those, all right? You're lucky I allow you in this room. It's very ridiculous that I even allow them at all.
We all know see what I can do with the loot?
No loots, no nothing, no bards, nothing from any bards ever. I don't want to hear it. We all know how I feel.
What about sea chanties?
Those are different, all right? We're pirates. We aren't really bards. Welcome, everybody. This is Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything. I am the titular Pirate Captain. As always with me, my bestest buddies, Bolgg.
Hello.
And Loke.
Yellow.
All right, guys. We're back at it again for another episode. I know it feels like we've been out forever, probably because we ain't. But we have a lot to get to today. First off, I want to thank this show's sponsor. Today's sponsor is the Red Dragons Workshop Studio. They're the ones who do all of our minis. When it comes to having a great mini, you're going to want the guys over the Red Dragon Workshop Studios to print yours. And if you give them an extra little $1 or $2, or at least mention this podcast, tell them that you heard of it through us, they may even paint it for you. So head over there. Yeah. They've done our dragons. Bolgg's working on his giant Bolgg statuette. Loke's working about his musical instrument of choice. And me, well, they're trying to make a whole boat for me. Something I can sail on.
Boat?
Well, it's a ship, really. But
gravy boat? It's the only kind of boat I care about.
Yeah. Make sure you guys go follow us on Chef Bolgg and Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything on Facebook. You can email us, bolgandpc@gmail.com. We do read your emails as soon as we get them. We love to hear from you. We always want to hear what you think about our shows. Come talk to us on Facebook. We're going to be doing a little bit more with Facebook, more and more each time. So the more you interact with us, the more it's going to benefit you. Tell us what you do like about the show, what you don't like about the show, or you can answer one of our fun little poll questions. I know we haven't had too many, but I think the one that I like the best that we started was, what was the Pirate Captain's dumbest argument? I don't know which one of you two did that, because I know it was one of you. As soon as I find out, we're going to have some words to say. It definitely wasn't Mr.
The answer is all of them.
That's not true. Mr. Producer. We also have Mr. Producer here with us today. He's always a good addition to the show. Say hey, Mr. Producer.
Hey, I'm here. I'm just kind of producing.
Is that what you're doing?
That's what I like to call it.
Oh. Taking up all me gold, hard-earned coins. You know, I shanghaied those for something. You can't be doing this with us. Oh. There's a lot coming down. I do want to make sure that we also, get all these mentions out there. The big one is Dice Strip. I am not as familiar as Bolgg is, so Bolgg, go ahead and tell us about Dice Strip.
So I discovered Dice Strip actually just kind of strolling through Facebook and discovered there it's a platform for creators of D&D content, whatever you do, if you're a home brewer, Twitch streamer, podcast like us. It gets you a platform to connect with other content creators and publishers to get your work out there. I thought that was really cool, so we signed up for it at pre-registry. Not exactly sure when it's going to become fully available, but hey, if you're a content creator like us, go join. That way we can hook up with you, get you on the show. Shout out to you.
Absolutely.
When we're doing this stuff.
Absolutely, man. We love to have people, especially local content creators. That's how we met the Red Dragon Workshop Studios. That's how we had God Mode Gaming on. Tacitus Publishing. Phoenix Emporium. All right, we're working with these guys. These are our friends. These are our fellow content creators. We want to hear from them. We also want to hear from you. So make sure you guys go sign up for Dice Strip. That being said, there's a lot to get into. I know I already said this, get into this episode. I want to talk about something that we came across when we were kind of trolling through the internets. Should you be able to replace dexterity with a ranged attack, right? You have to make a dex check. all right, or a dex that you use your dex as your modifier.
Yeah.
Somebody asked this question, and I thought it was actually a decent question to be asked, but I don't think it has any grounds to stand up. But he says that you should be able to change it to a wisdom, because wisdom is more dealt with eyesight, which I disagree with too. But I want to hear what you guys say.
Yeah, there is an argument, like, for example, with melee weapons, there are those special case, like the finesse weapons, where you could, instead of using strength, use dex. So if you've built a character that they still have a melee option, but there is not really a ranged equivalent, where there is not a specific ranged weapon that uses another stat or takes advantage of an alternate method.
Something that's
thrown weapons. Thrown weapons use strength.
So thrown weapons use strength. So, and we'll get to that, because that's actually a good point to be thrown in there. Here's the question that was asked. Okay, can someone answer this? Why is it dex for ranged attacks primarily? I'm a big guy, as he says, so his dex would probably be an 8, but yet he's a dead eye when it comes to shooting. So apparently he's Pistol Pete. So it would become, wouldn't it be more accurate to use wisdom for ranged attacks? Now, this kind of seems mechanically game-breaking, as clerics and druids would get a lot stronger, but usually it's your wisdom that relates to your senses, like eyesight. I don't.
I think.
What are you saying there, Mr. Master of Chaos?
Well, yeah.
Oh wait, sorry, you're Master of Order. We'll get into that one too.
There is I think there's some of the misperception because of perception that wisdom is tied into senses rather than it's more that it's tied into understanding of what you're seeing or picking out the difference in what you're seeing. It is not necessarily your vision is better with a higher wisdom.
Because and firing a gun is almost completely different to firing a bow. I can pick out the center of the target. You give me a bow and arrow, it's going elsewhere. It's not going toward it. You give me a gun, I can put it pretty close to that center of that target.
Yeah, there's a reason modern militaries aren't using explosive arrows. They're using bullets because
we call them HE rounds.
Yeah, but they've all converted over because it's faster and easier to train somebody on a rifle or a pistol than it is on an old-style English longbow.
So, and with dexterity is how nimble you are, and it's a lot to do with your hand-eye coordination. Think about trying to use thieves' tools to break into something, or trying to use anything of that sorts.
It's also your body control. It is your balance, your muscle reactions. Just think of the save versus fireball. It is your reflex to jump out of the way. So it is your body control, not just balance.
Yeah, but I guess you could see it coming. Wisdom to know it's coming, but
and there's so much that actually goes into firing a bow or firing a crossbow. It requires strength, dexterity, good aim. Crossbows especially require a lot of strength to cock that thing back. Some of them have huge draw weights, and you need to be able to, take care of that.
When you say that, you know what that makes me think? I want to see I want to see strength checks to reload your crossbow.
You have a character with a negative strength score. You might want to.
They get that one shot with that crossbow, and then they got to drop it.
Or there's a prereq for in order, just like the heavy weapons. You have to have a certain strength to wield them. Maybe apply that to crossbows.
Yeah, I just don't I think the guy gets wrapped around that, because the question comes from a group that we follow. I think he gets wrapped up around that dexterity kind of means that you're always going to be a nimble person. Like you can have you can be nimble with your fingers. John Wayne was actually a really good sharpshooter. He could actually spin the pistol around on his finger and everything, and it went right into the holster. He obviously bigger dude, definitely wasn't an acrobat by any means. So I think he kind of gets wrapped up around the size being dexterous, and you can have fat monks that are still very dexterous. Think about if you're an Ursine monk of some sort.
The Kung Fu Panda.
Dexterity
exactly.
is
Thank you
a
for getting
big
that one.
catch-all category, and it's giving what your average stat in that like in the old skills and powers days, they actually had the ability where you could split your dex between balance and aim, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on. They may have different names, but there were two substats, And you could have a 10 in one and a 20 in the other, and so your showing stat would be a 15 because you were the average of those two components that made up
Yeah.
the stat. So a person with really good aim but poor flexibility, may have a middling stat.
You could have really good aim and be firing from the hip and hit nothing.
Yeah. I mean, that's
The spray and pray.
I'd say that's a crew serve weapon for those of you military folk.
Yeah.
I understand where he would try to make. To me, I feel like he's just trying to make the argument about being a bigger guy and trying to justify why you would be. But honestly,
well, and also if you are a ranger who is a sharpshooter, can you do splits? Can you do tightrope walking?
not in that armor, you can't.
Exactly. So it kind of but that's the same. It's the same dex stat.
Well, and that ties into like even bard performances. If you're playing a lute, you're using a lot of dexterity to play that instrument.
Right, but your check is all on your.
It's on your charisma. It's all based for quick response to the dice roll. So like we can't go down and say, okay, to fire a bow, you have to check your perception to make sure your aim's on target, check your dexterity to make sure you've got it pulled back correctly, check your strength to make sure it's pulled back far enough to get to the target. You can't do all that in one round of combat. It takes too long. Yeah. So it's just a quick dexterity.
The game's been simplified. It may not. Some things are not realistic in the game. Just like when we play, we use non-Euclidean geometry. 30 a squared plus b squared doesn't always equal c squared. If you have a 30-foot range and they're 30 foot up and 30 foot out, they're in range. Even though in real world math, they're not in range because that side would actually be longer than 30 feet.
I just wanted to go on record, too. We don't use physics, and I think that's bad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, yeah.
But nobody wants to have to sit and do the math to figure out, okay, what is the length of this hypotenuse he's flying 30 feet
if
in
I
the
got
air.
Baka in here, he would.
He's flying 30 feet in the air, and he's 30 feet away from me, so it's 30 squared plus 30 squared, the square root.
I love physics, but I hate doing the math for it.
Yeah.
So I'm all for, is it within range based on what the game says? Yeah, sure. I'll take the shot.
I want to see that Kentucky windage. That's where you got to add your wisdom to your damn to your range rows. You got to use that Kentucky windage. How are you leading the shot? Are they running? That's the one thing about 6 second turns that really doesn't. A lot of people don't realize. First off, 6 seconds isn't. It isn't a whole lot of time. It all depends upon what you're trying to do. If you're sitting there waiting for your child to be quiet, no, 6 seconds is forever. But if you're trying to defuse a bomb, 6 seconds go by. And, different things. But I could see having to use wisdom to like kind of lead the shot, because you should be leading a shot, because when you fire that within that 6 seconds, everything technically is happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you should be able to make that shot without having to actually worry about whether your buddy's going to be in the way. So I think, I'll give him wisdom. I'll let him add wisdom. Maybe, no, I guess that was where the proficiency bonus would come in, though, because you get more proficient over time.
Yeah, and, some other games delve more into the, tabletop war scenarios, the Warhammers or I don't have a lot of experience Warhammer, but like BattleTech, where you declare what your actions are and your movements, but then they all happen at the same time. So if somebody moves into your line of sight or something, you might be hitting the wrong target.
Yeah.
Just because you declared that attack at the beginning of the round, and the way everybody moved, he moved into your line of fire. Well, too bad that guy's getting hit.
Well, that brings it back to those 3 pillars that we talked about in the episode with Nick and God mode. The role play, the social interaction, and the combat. D&D is a balance of all 3. If you want the more hardcore hardcore gaming, like wargaming type stuff, there are systems out there to do that. D&D is not one of them. It's a quick dexterity check.
5e D&D.
I would say I don't think that 5e is quick about anything. Or it's quicker, but it's not, because think about it. A turn, 6 seconds, right? So how many turns does it make how many turns does it take to make a full minute?
10.
10, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How long does it take to do 10 turns in a single game? With just what you would not with our group, it takes us what? Probably about 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, the typical combat probably lasts 15 to 30 minutes.
Right.
And that's the whole that combat may be 3 to 5 rounds. If it's designed well, it's 1 round. If it's designed poorly, depends.
Hey,
But I mean, just in the concept of actually playing, not necessarily that it's quick on the clock, but quick in the dice roll. And because there are systems out there where to make one single attack check, you have to roll like 3 different checks to make it go
that
through.
Pathfinder.
And there's some older systems that were much more complicated.
Yeah.
Even old like just wargaming from like old military days took forever because it was meticulously planned, and each one of those things had a specific thing to do.
I remember the old Palladium games. It took a good 8 hours to build your character, just because the complex, each step. Like, okay, you were born the child of these 2 people who gave you this kind of a elementary school education training. These are what your skills would be from that. Okay, here's what you did in middle school. Here's what you did in high school, and you would build your character's entire life up to the start of the game to get stats. And if you didn't have a stat for wiping your butt with toilet paper, you were going to fail that roll every time you went to the bathroom and die. It was, it was that detailed where if you missed that one, in that 8-hour build, you missed one key stat that you needed for a life regular function.
It makes me think of 1,000 Ways to Die in the West, the Seth MacFarlane. He's like, I can die. You know what color is? The black shits. The black shits. I could die in my outhouse. I can just see that being the conversation for an hour.
Yeah.
Let me find out that 1,000 Ways to Die in the West is
if you
Palladium.
left off, I remember Ninjas and Super Spies, because you're used to playing medieval role-playing games, you didn't take any driving skills. Guess when you couldn't drive a car, you were stuck relying on other people for rides.
But I can ride a horse. Yeah, but it's 2022. No one really rides a horse anywhere.
Yeah, and there are systems out now that just from switching from Dungeons and Dragons and basic role play, these easy systems to learn and do. Fallout, Cyberpunk, Shadowrun. These systems are in depth, and the character sheets themselves are massive. We have it so easy in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, even compared to like older editions of Dungeons and Dragons. I feel that
back in my day,
it's much faster and streamlined compared to other things.
Yeah, so. They've cleaned it up. They want it to, with as few stats as possible, with as few skill proficiencies as possible, which we've discussed in lots of different episodes where, some of us long-timers would prefer to have some more detailed stats and more detailed abilities and stuff like that. But they've made it as quick and easy as possible, streamline-wise, where a new player doesn't have to learn the difference between a dungeoneering mapping and dungeoneering traps removal.
We don't even have dungeoneering, though.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, we've taken out some of the cooler abilities from the game because,
to streamline and make things go.
Yeah, because
maybe
we're still delving in the dungeons. We're still removing the traps.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
but it's been streamlined. The skill is there. It's just all.
So maybe with Wizards right now, we could actually see them start making modules for some of the to complicate things a little bit.
And there are third-party companies that definitely do that.
I think that with going to the third party though, I'm not asking Wizards to do everything for me. I would just like them to do something for me for the older players. Granted, they're dying out. Nothing against you there, Loke. I understand. Long may you live, the voice of reason. But I think that if we started actually selling to some of these older parties and stuff, make things complicated again. Because I tell you what, if you get players, tougher challenges, I think are better for players, and it brings you together as players. If you can just run and jump over a hill versus having to come together to weave a bridge out of rope and some sticks that you guys find, what do you think the players are going to have a better time with?
Right. I think right now the Wizards of the Coast is focusing more on keeping things as simple as possible. They're more focused on the entry level new player than they are pleasing old players. They think old players are already happy with.
I think I've seen something where someone asked, "Hey, are we going to get like a skills and powers type thing?" And they said, "You want to play that kind of older stuff? Go back and play it. It's there. It's still there. It's still available."
Yeah, but they don't publish the books anymore, and that's the thing. So now I got to go find this book from a dude that's selling it for like $400. Like if they produce the old modules, I'd be happy to go out there and do that. Honestly, I want to get the Pathfinder stuff and actually run a Pathfinder campaign. I think that our players would enjoy that kind of challenge. The group that we play with, and we don't. But they don't publish that stuff. So now I have to go in and go buy it off this third party site, which is costing me, and it's not a great publication. I can't effectively use everything. I would just like to see Wizards make things a little bit more challenging, and I'm telling you. You don't think your players would enjoy it? I hands down beg to differ.
Well, I don't think it's that they don't think players will enjoy it. I think they've done the math at Wizards, and the
young people are
new player has got to come in, buy a player's handbook, monster manual, DM's manual, Tasha's, Xanthar's. So they're buying 5 books.
You know what I love about new players?
Yeah.
I keep getting older, but they just stay the same.
Yeah. But the new player's buying 5 books this year.
God damn it.
I want to see that on a shirt now. So
the
some
Agent
kind
of chaos.
just
pirate captain.
The pirate captain. We're going to get into that. I want to how you came up with that. It comes from a joke a couple of weeks ago, or about a month ago now, when we had Nick from God Mode Gaming, the guys that stream on Twitch, and he goes. Well, you know what? Hold on. We'll get into that. Yeah. But anyway, back to what you're saying.
Yeah, I think Wizards has done the math, and every new player that they can attract is buying, say, 5 books in a year. Whereas the old timers, you've already got all those books. You're not buying them again. So you may be buying an adventure or an add-on book, but you're not buying all 5 books this year. So I think their business model right now is to expand the new players, which is why the third-party market is so big for them. They're the ones that are going after the existing players, and it's just a difference of business. It's neither is right or wrong. It's just a difference.
No, there is a right or a wrong.
I don't know. I think they could make a good bit of money if they just like took all of the old second ed stuff and stuck it in one big compendium and said, "Here, you like 5th edition? Try this."
No, I'm absolutely sure of it. You could probably do.
See, second edition was TSR, not Wizards.
This is true.
So you're going to have to go rights disputes wise, and
that's fine. That's what I'm saying. You could probably go to about 3.5, which was Pathfinder. And granted, you could just go play Pathfinder, and I get that. But I think that if you just made it challenging for some of your older players and some of your new players. All right, you've done this module. All right, great. This is your beginner module. You learned how to play. Now, try challenge mode, hard mode. How many players actually enjoy hard modes on video games? And that's what I'm saying.
That was the original model of D&D, was that you basic D&D, you had 4, you had the human fighter, the dwarven cleric, the elven spellcaster, or the I'm forgetting what there were 4.
It was just the rogue.
The human rogue.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was it.
Humans get 2
because that's just the way they were, and those were your only choices. And that's what you played. You played one of those 4,
and that's what I'm saying.
And even then, they had third-party stuff that was giving more options and making things more challenging.
But you started with that basic, and then you went over to advanced, where you actually built your own character, and you actually did, the original AD&D. That's what the difference between the basic and was the building of your character, and you got more options and more complicated.
You went from playing Hello Kitty Island Adventure to playing Elden Rings, and now you're like, I don't know if I want to play this anymore.
Yeah, and then each edition since then, they've kind of stepped back a little bit. Or it's like, okay, because there is no such thing as a basic D&D or advanced D&D, and now it's all just D&D. I just did air quotes like people listening could see
that.
me.
That's the agent of order for you. I don't know, man. I think that if you gave players the challenge, I think that they would highly enjoy it. Yeah. And you can always go back. There's no reason you can never go back. So what do you got, Mr. Producer?
So I'm a Gen Z kid.
All right. You know what? I'm shutting this off. All right, go.
I think Wizards would benefit from a basic and an advanced, because these iPad kids aren't going to spend 8 hours rolling up a D&D character. I make it an hour if I'm lucky. I think
You're not, Mr. Producer. You're really not helping your argument over here.
I mean, I get what he's saying. He's saying that like the attention span of a lot of these younger kids who came up on iPads and stuff and can just flip between stuff as much as they can, they don't. 5th edition is great for them. It's awesome because it's quick, it's easy.
Yeah.
But if we wanted to integrate 3.5 rules into 5th edition and try and get some of that stuff in there, that's great for older players because we're used to that kind of thing. But
I think,
and theoretically, people who've been playing long enough aren't afraid to homebrew or go to a third party, or a new player isn't going to do that. So a new player they're keeping it. Their focus on the new player. Obviously, it's working because if you look at their market share versus the Pathfinder, what is it, 2nd edition, 3rd, whatever the new one that came out, is basically almost dead these days.
Yeah, well,
that's the second closest runner-up.
The crappy part about that one is like Pathfinder. Like Pathfinder is what I tried to explain. I had a friend of one of my soldiers. I was talking to him at Drill Weekend about a month ago now. Yeah. And we were sitting there talking about Final Fantasy and World of Warcraft, and I was like, these games have to die. All right, it's a product of the time. These games will die at some point, and we need to be ready for that. EverQuest has tried to survive on for the longest. The only one that's honestly going to stand the test of time is RuneScape, because RuneScape's, look, we're a 2-bit engine, we're playing this. D&D 5th edition has to die. It's just going to. You can't just keep throwing stuff out because eventually you're just going to clog the market down with it. There's going to have to be a 6th edition soon. Pathfinder is going to have to die. Now they came out with 2nd edition, and 2nd edition just didn't live. Yeah. So are we going to, if you go into this new edition now.
Now Pathfinder is producing modules for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep. Played in the Pathfinder style, right?
They are taking modules they created for Pathfinder, retooling them to 5th edition rules, and republishing them to 5th edition as a third-party publisher.
And that's terrible, Pathfinder.
Yeah,
That's
that is giving up. They have I don't think there will be a 3rd edition. I think they're done.
I think that's it, and that's fine to die. So when 5th edition dies, though, of D&D, how much easier are you going to make it to this game? Like, how much more streamlined are you going to get to where you've basically gutted the game? Because if you think about where the game came from, all right, it was this giant mountain filled with gems and gold and ore, and it was very unrefined. You didn't know what was in there. You just knew what was in there was valuable, all right? And then we go into 2nd edition. Now, we've taken some of this stuff out. Now, we refined it a little bit. We know what we have. We have this nice little pretty gem. Okay, Now, 3rd edition comes through. 3rd edition we don't talk about. We talk about 3.5. That's the one that was ended up becoming Pathfinder and continued on. So now we've taken more out of this mountain. It's very refined. We know what we have, but now we're starting to look. Now things are getting kind of dwindling down. We're running out of ore in this mountain. Finally, we get to 4th edition. 4th edition, we're starting to pull out. Gems aren't really as big as they used to be because the game's kind of died down a little bit. And then we hit 5th edition. What happened in 5th edition? We had Stranger Things. We've had all the nerd culture take back over.
Critical Role.
Well, also, though, 4th edition, I mean, they went too far in 4th edition and have come back. So
they were digging in the wrong direction in that mine, and then they switched.
Yeah.
And now they found another, Yeah,
they've got another rich vein of ore over here that they're...
Did you guys actually play 4th edition at all, or did you...
A little bit.
Yeah, dabbled in it. It wasn't that good.
That's the first one I started on, so the transition from 4th edition to 5th edition was a shocker for me.
It is. It's a culture shock, and it was. When these editions changed, it's always been culture shock. And it's culture shock to the older players. Absolutely. They are not ready to give up this stuff. I guarantee you're going to go to 5th edition, and players who have only played 5th E are going to be like, I don't like this. I don't want anything to do with it. It's not what I like. But we're slowly gutting this mine out to where we're not going to be getting what we wanted out of it anymore. And that's my issue with this. And this is what I'm saying. We got to kind of keep up. Like, go backwards. It's okay to get tougher and make things harder. And I think that you're going to keep... You would actually increase your player base again because players would be like, oh, this we're getting to do more skills. Things are kind of like not so very baseline. Bards can't just do everything. You still can't go an episode without slamming
That's
bards.
the thing, though. I think they're trying to homogenize instead of specialize, and
But-
that's where they're gonna have to kill 5th edition, like you said, and go to 6 and restart.
Yeah.
Because now we're at the point where everybody can do a little bit from everybody.
And I think they realize this too. I mean, they have hinted that the new what's the wording they use? The new
Evolution?
Evolution. That's the one they use. The new evolution is coming out. What, next year? The year after? They may not be calling it 5.5 or 6.
I honestly don't think like
Dungeons and Dragons Evolution.
yeah. If it's gonna be
Dungeons
anything
and
like,
Dragons Revengeance.
I'm sorry if I think every time I think of anything with evolution, I think of that terrible Dragon Ball Z movie.
And this could be that. It could be that terrible
Yeah.
until we see what they've done with it. But they will be releasing new players' handbooks, new monster manuals for all those people who already own them already. Now we'll go back and buy the new ones again.
I mean, we buy every book.
Yeah.
I just because I started 4th edition. So is Pathfinder, is that D&D 3.5?
Yes. Pathfinder is 3.5.
People didn't like the 3rd edition the way it was originally packaged. So a alternate publisher took 3rd edition, fixed it, and created Pathfinder. It is not actually Wizards of the Coast.
Not at all.
Okay.
So then Wizards of the Coast said, "Oh wait, we can fix our own," and created 3.5, which is kind of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very close.
So that's why it's
So there's a Pathfinder that was the fixed D&D
It is the unacknowledged bastard child.
so you have people think 4th edition is truly the worst one, but nothing ever spawned off 4th edition. That's just why 3rd edition of D&D is the worst edition of D&D, because it spawned off not only it was D&D 3.5 and Pathfinder. It's all.
I mean, it was we have to fix this, not we have to start over again, which is what 4th was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fourth, they were trying to make things more video game like. They had planned to launch their own service like a Roll20, or a Fantasy Grounds, or one of these virtual tabletop. D&D from the beginning of designing 4th edition had planned to launch their own one of those that would work with 4th edition rules.
Yeah.
But then there was problems with the publisher or whoever the programmers were, and it never happened. Which when
this
you have
also
a platform
back in the 90s and 2000s too. So it was,
so when you have a
Technology
system,
wasn't there yet.
you have a system that's designed to work with a system that doesn't exist. You got problems to begin with.
You hear that, young whippersnapper and you Gen Z ass?
But you know what? They're the ones spending money, so let's
They,
pour one out for the old guard.
you pour one out in this studio and I'll murder you.
I'll clean it up.
Okay. I don't know. I think that it's time for everything has to die.
Yeah.
And I think that if you the way to keep 5th edition alive a little bit longer would be to make a hard mode and not something and let Wizards do it. I want third party creators to actually go out there and do it. I'm glad that they're getting to make money off this because of Wizards' failures. But it's time for Wizard to open up and admit, hey, look, we may be making this a little too easy. Here's something for your old players, because they're kicking out older players, and honestly, it's the older players that are still putting a lot in. There's not as many new players as we want to think. From what I've read and understood, everybody's buying the books, yeah. But they're not buying it as near as much, because the old players, the people who hate things the most, are the ones that are going to speak the loudest. They're actually going to be the ones that are taking in the product. I learned that working in radio. You can ask 3 people who like your show. They're not going to say it near as much as the people who will tell you that they hate your show, and they can tell you every minute of everything you've said. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Let's give something to the older players.
Yeah, and like I said, it would make sense. I could see them doing it, but I don't expect that Wizards is going to change their direction in that way at this time. Right now, the focus on making it more accessible, more broadly available to everyone approach for 5th edition has made it the most successful edition.
I think that's a crappy way to explain 5th edition as being the most successful, and here's why. First off, it's hard to gauge these older editions because, one, times were different, money was worth different back then. Also, you had the Satanic Panic, which we talked about a couple episodes ago. You've had so many other stigmas that have wrapped up around and have kicked D&D from the mainstream. The only reason it's successful now is because the only reason it's more successful now is probably because of the availability of the content. Because I guarantee if you could have made D&D more available to the public back in the first few editions, it would have been just as successful.
And if it had been as big of a part of the pop culture zeitgeist as it is
exactly.
now. Yeah.
So I think
Which it kind of was, but it wasn't.
It's a chicken and the egg. Is it part of the zeitgeist and bigger and wider now because they have brought on this model to make it more accessible, or is it?
I think it's the most successful because of the time
yeah.
that we're in. Because I guarantee, as we go into 6th edition, it'll be just as popular and stuff. Because they're gonna market it out the same way. They said,
You're
okay,
gonna have critical role playing
yeah,
it,
and that's why. So I think giving it the label that it's the most successful of the games, it's not that it's a bad game or it's a bad edition. I like 5th edition. I honestly like the first few years of 5th edition. Everything was still kind of like vague. It was hard to do. You were more multi-classing into doing something. You weren't just, oh, here's your bard that can do this. Here's your warlock that can do that. Here's your barbarian that can do this. It was hard. You actually had to actively think and work. And now you're just like, oh, here's the celestial warlock. Here's the bard. Here's the barbarian. You're just like, oh, God, okay, cool. You can do it all. And it's not, I understand wanting your favorite class to do something. My favorite class, even though I'm the pirate captain, my favorite class is the warlock. But having my warlock do the things that a healer should be doing just doesn't seem right, because warlocks by nature are taking things. All right, we're taking energies from our deities. All right, they're giving it to us, but it's the give and take. It's not like me stealing.
Magical leech.
Yeah, exactly. It's all we are. Magical leech.
Magical sugar daddy.
Magical sugar daddy. I like that. And so that's what I'm saying, is now you have this magical leech, and you're going to tell me that it's going to give power to something else? That makes you a deity, essentially, of a warlock, just in the grand schemes. Not like, oh, you're going to be, because I healed you, you now serve me as a patriot. That's the thing. Like, it kind of breaks the way I think of warlocks.
Yeah, and they've tried. Instead of separating out classes, there's a difference between a good warlock and a bad warlock.
No, we're all bad by nature. No, we're
but instead of a celestial warlock being a warlock, had D&D come out and called them a saint.
Yeah.
That'd be a cleric.
Well,
except they use their powers in a different way.
I'm just
I
coming up. Had they named them something other than warlock and created a separate class, they're trying to stay with the same 12 classes and make everything a subclass underneath them.
Maybe we need less subclasses, and we maybe need more refining of. We need more refining of the regular classes.
So less subclasses, more powers and abilities you can purchase.
Maybe, yeah. Because like I said, you're already with the warlock, and I love using the warlock because it's the class that I know the most. I think that if you're leeching off of somebody, you really shouldn't be able to give power to something, because you by nature are taking things from stuff, and you're not doing it out of like, you're not doing it because you're a bad person. All right, that's how you get your abilities. So how are you able to give magic if your whole thing is you're taking magic?
Yeah, in older editions, also like divine magic versus arcane magic versus psionic magics were very different. They had very different roles. They did very different things. They functioned very differently. Now, the way the rules are written, they basically are just window dressing differences. They are the same, effects. You can actually have the same spell do the same thing. Psychic versus divine versus arcane. It's just who's casting it that's changed. Whereas in old editions, like, a wizard would never be able to heal. Because arcane magic didn't do healing.
And that's what I'm saying.
Psionicis would only have the 3 or 4 spells, kind of like what a warlock has now, because your mental skills for those kind of psychic powers were limited to what a psychic power type function, like telekinesis or clairvoyance or
telepathy.
Telepathy. They were very narrowly defined for the type of magic, whereas now it's all blanket. But we also had different, like, cure wounds. It wasn't cure wounds and you upcast it by what level you wanted. There was cure wounds 1. It was the level 1 spell. Cure wounds 2 was level 2. They were not exactly the same spell.
Cure wounds, cure greater wounds, cure superior. Yeah.
I would like, let's take the blanket out of the equation. Let's just take it out, because you have to also define where you get your powers. All right, that's what makes each magical class different. All right, think about it. Druids get theirs from nature, right?
Yeah.
Clerics get theirs from their divine patron. This is why I have an issue with the celestial warlock, because if you're getting it from something that's divine, that would essentially make you
through the power of faith.
Okay.
Yeah.
Instead of making a deal, you
just believe.
You believe so hard that your god goes, okay, yeah, I can help you out there.
Think about that. If you, I'm sorry, that's just funny. Like, I believe.
No, it's a difference between warlock. Warlock's like, hey, can I borrow some power to do this? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yours is
like,
real.
I'm gonna get your power because I love you so damn much.
No, here's what I'm thinking is the fact that clerics theirs isn't real. Theirs could they just believe it to be real, and that's where they get theirs. Where warlocks is legitimately real. We're like, yeah, I guess I could give you.
The warlock met their.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. You're just kind of hoping that your god is actually real. Yeah. I love that. Bards is by the power of
song,
in dance,
and the power of entertainment. Essentially, what we're doing.
The power
right
of their natural charisma.
Damn it, we are bards. I just thought about that. Oh, I don't want to be a bard. Anyway, sorcerers, innate magical ability, right? Mm-hmm. It's born into them, or it's infused into them. Like, it's something that they generate. They
had a
their
dragon ancestor, and that's where the dragon blood's in. They had a genie.
They generate their own magic.
Or they're so infused with the quote-unquote weave from DnD lore that they just can naturally cast magic, though they don't know how it's going to happen.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think if you just blanket it out, and I hate to say that we're taking away the blankets, but then we're blanketing this one. If sorcerers generate their own magic, okay? We can agree on that. So now you have wizards. Wizards, where their magic comes from, the arcane, which is just the energies around them.
And learning how to control it.
And learning how to control it.
They have studied that, if you have a big enough lever, with the right fulcrum, you can move a mountain.
Right.
They've learned the math.
So, and then the warlocks, they're the leeches, all right? They get theirs from there. And so that's what I'm saying about this whole magic thing. Like, where you get your energies from can define what you do. And if you're drawing magic from something, you can't give magic away, because then you would have less. So you would lose your abilities to do something. And this is me I think this is me arguing around lore of the class itself. The idea of where I got my magic. Now, I believe hard enough in something that may or may not exist versus the warlock who actually exist. I'm drawing in that inner faith, and I'm believing in the hardest I can. I think I can. It's like living with the little engine that could. That's all clerics are.
See, I would argue old school paladins.
Oh, I forgot about paladins. Well, they're faith based too.
Old school paladins were faith based. Mm-hmm. New school 5th edition paladins have nothing to do with faith.
Yep.
They are by their oath and by their orders.
Let's cancel paladins. Which honestly, if I had to pick a class right now to cancel, it would be a paladin. Yeah. And it's not. And normally, yes, I would go with the bard. But the reason I would go with the paladins is because the paladin is a class that is made so hard to play that nobody wants to play it.
Well, and the old school,
except that a good paladin can rule a game.
Yeah, and the old school paladins were basically celestial warlocks, hexblade warlocks to be specific. They were, not priests, not.
You're lucky you're on the other side of this class, because I would stab you for.
Yeah. They were not priests of their god. They made a deal that they were going to enforce their god's laws on the unbelievers. Sometimes, like the medieval times where the Crusades, where they would go and, in exchange for wiping out their sins of murdering and pillaging, they would go and murder and pillage them.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. It's like they get their abilities through their faith and things like that. And so I can get that. They did. Okay,
in 5th edition, there is no divine element to the smite. It's
you're going to pay because I say you're going to pay.
Yeah. I have made an oath.
Paladins are bullies.
Yeah. Paladins are bullies.
I'm a lawful good bully.
The crown, or I've made an oath to, vengeance, and that oath alone powers my will to smite you.
Yeah. I don't. I just don't like.
They generate magical ability from their force of convictions. That is it.
That is it. Yeah, it is completely a matter of them, their own will as a paladin.
Paladins, we're dicks, and we know it.
So generally, just to sum up, no, you have to use dex to fire a bow.
God, we got so far off. I kept you guys. Hold on 1 second.
I did a real good job about keeping you guys on track. 45 minutes later.
Yeah, see, we always have to have the voice of reason, which I guess will get me into this next topic. We always have to have the voice of reason because we let the voice of reason go, and then we end up blowing up the world. But if you look at this, the way this podcast is set up, we have 3 distinct voices and Mr. Producer. Mr. Producer's, he is essentially our Dr. Fate, if you want to think of the DC universe. So you have... Why? You have because Dr. Fate was, he always kept the balance. And
why would you think of the DC universe? There's Batman. Then here you go.
Because the magic in DC universe is all based around the Lords of Chaos and Fate. Like it's all about balance. So we were sitting here and we were laughing about this after we left the episode with Nick from God Mode Gaming. And we were like, well, each of us has our role on this show, and it's a great role that we each hold. And now our famous voice of reason, the logical, the more mild-tempered, which is weird for a bard, our voice of order, and who came up with this concept.
There's a reason I normally play mages.
Yeah, except for sorcerers.
Yeah, no. Sorcerers are not mages.
They are not. Why? Well, hold on. That's a good question. We'll get into that one after a bit. But so our voice of order is Loke the Bard. And then when things get wild, you feel like everything was going good up until that one moment, that one little moment, and you knew the pirate captain had stepped in. The voice of chaos and all his dumb arguments, which aren't actually dumb arguments. They're so dumb they're smart sometimes.
But it also goes with the play style. When you come in, you try to throw the wrench of chaos into the game.
It's more like the hammer of the gods of chaos. But yeah, it is.
Yeah, and he's blowing up the world more often than anybody else. That would be because there's a certain other agent sitting in here.
The voice. And this agent is an agent that neither the voice of chaos or the voice of order can hold off on.
Or account for.
Yeah, you can't plan for it.
And never...
Can't fix it.
Even chaos.
Famous comedians.
Yeah.
You can't fix it.
Even chaos is sitting there going, man, I don't even think I could have done that. Chef Bolgg and the voice of stupidity.
I check for traps!
As he barrels through me ship door again. Yep. Bolgg, that's the side of the hull.
Yeah, screaming, I check for traps in a dungeon that we're supposed to be stealthing through. Just to, then miss the trap and set it off anyway.
Oh, man. I appreciate that.
It's great when every party has one. If the whole party is like that.
Yeah, you have to have, I think that your party balance has to follow what is now, and you're hearing it here first, the 3 balances of a D&D party. You have to have the voice of order, the voice of chaos, and the voice of stupidity. Because I'm going to tell you, if your party is just nothing but order and everybody's doing the right thing and good times of plenty and everything's going good, it's a very boring campaign. But if you have a very chaotic campaign, everything is nothing but you're trying left.
Nothing gets done.
Yeah, you're trying left, but everything goes to the right. You're going up, but everything goes down.
Everything's on fire. You don't know what to do.
Everything is not fine. But if you have a game full of stupidity, then you're just not getting anywhere. You
can't get through the locked puzzle door. You can't pick the lock. You can't. Yeah.
No, and that's what I'm talking about. I think that the pillars that we have created here with this podcast actually carries over. And you're right, it does. It matches our play style very well. I actually do my best to not be chaotic. I really do. But it's hard for me because I'm such a chaos-based person. Like my girlfriend, she the pirate wench, she laughs at me all the time because I go in and she's like, how do you stay calm when everything else seems like it's going to hell? I was like, I don't know, just take it one step at a time, and I'll figure it out as I go along. And I'm sure that your ex-wife could probably say she's an agent of chaos. We'll just give her that one.
Hey,
Hold on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for distracting the voice of stupidity there, Mr. Producer.
look at the shiny.
Whoa. We're gonna get to those because I want those so
Yep.
bad. How much are those? Oh yeah, I'm definitely getting that. You leave that page right there. We'll get to what we're looking at. But I think that if you have these 3 pillars, that it actually makes if each pillar is equally represented, and anybody out there that's listening to this episode, I want you to go find us on Facebook. When this episode airs, we're going to air a poll question. Are there just the 3 pillars of a good team? Pillar of chaos, the pillar of order, and the pillar of stupidity. If there's more, I want to hear from you. We want to make sure that you guys are reaching out to us about that.
Yeah,
So.
and it's. I mean, we've talked often about the balanced party, where we're talking about actions and the combat versus the exploration versus the face versus the trap finder, skill monkey. We've talked about the game balances that way, but there has to be a balance in the natures of the players.
Yeah.
You if you have somebody who is the attention hound, you need somebody who is sitting back and taking the notes. I mean, you need balance in all things.
Right.
And it's also where you fit those pillars into those roles. Because if the face is the pillar of chaos, that party's going to have some fun times.
Oh man. But
if the face is the pillar of order, you've got you're going to be very structured and very well regarded. If the face is the pillar of stupidity, you get most campaigns where Bolgg is involved.
I like honestly of all your brain die-up schemes that you've ever had, Loke, this is probably one of my favorites, and it's actually been a great topic. Like I think about that now, and I look at some of the friends that we've had that we played with, that guys have been here on the show, and where they kind of like fit in to each of their roles. I would find like our buddy Baka, definitely the voice of chaos. All right, he's on the pillar of chaos with me.
But oddly, is also the rule lawyer.
Which is weird,
Yeah.
and it goes to like Bolgg's argument about how you can still be the face, but you're also the voice of chaos.
Yeah.
And now it's crazy. But
I think Baka may fall into the voice of stupid pillar because he balances his order and chaos. He's chaotic, definitely, but he's a rules lawyer, so that's orderly. He balances those two. And then he
throws the wrench.
The wrench
Yeah.
of the stupid.
So you think that players can actually fill okay, I have it drawn right here.
Uh-huh.
All right, so hold on, let me label this right here.
I think Bacall may actually fall under the pillar of
See?
stupid.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Order
He does do a lot on both spectrums, but
now we're not saying just like
All right, so-
Bolgg in real life is a very intelligent person, but he is still the pillar of stupid.
I stand behind to really play a good stupid character. You have to be pretty smart.
Yeah.
So look right here. This is my drawing. This is my hand quick
The
drawing.
drawing that none of our listeners can see.
Right, but this is for us.
It's a triangle.
It's a triangle. Well, I'm gonna get to explaining it here. If you give me a damn second and quit giving me a bunch of crap.
Who's the pillar of trying to show a triangle on the radio.
I hate you. I hate you all. All right, so like they're saying, as I was going to explain, I just wanted to make sure you guys could see it because I know it's sometimes hard to see through the glass. Can you see, or do I got to get Mr. Producer to bring it in there?
We see it.
Okay,
Yes.
so I have a triangle, all right, and on it is the 3 pillars. On top is the pillar of chaos. On to the right is the pillar of order, and finally the pillar of stupidity to the left. Now think about that. Can you fit yourself within that triangle as a player and fill it out? Now we mentioned Baka. We honestly say that Baka, if we were to put him on this triangle, you guys said that he would be probably right about. You see where I put that dot? Right there at the bottom.
Oh no, I would say he's strongly on the
stupid side.
stupid side.
Yeah, he's more. It's okay. So
I would say
he
he's
is in the middle on the order chaos.
no,
line.
I don't think like you can't.
He might be.
You can't be perfectly in the center, and the reason why I say
That's why I said on the order chaos line he's in the middle, but he is heavily onto the stupid line.
Yeah. So when you got the triangle, it would be more like down here.
you just showed me an octagon,
That's
Mister.
a
Oh, I'm going to
that's a
show
tr-
Mister. Oh yeah, talking about. Okay.
Kiko Ho.
Okay.
But if you have the triangle, it would be more down in the center, not on a line, but in the center area, but down towards stupid.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so then let's do Niggle Ward. If you guys had to pick a spot for Niggle Ward,
In between order and stupid.
I don't even figure that he's honestly even on stupid. I honestly think that he's order and chaos.
Have you
He's
seen
more
some-
on the order side.
He's definitely order. I think we may actually have to make this a square because, like, you can't really because you can have smart players, but I think stupid, you're either not yay or you nay.
Yeah, but like I said, even when we're not talking their actual intelligence, we're
talking
it's a
about
different kind of chaos. It's
it is a thin line between chaos and order where the unpredictability falls into one of those two categories.
Okay.
yeah.
So Niggle Ward, I would figure he's actually more order based.
Yeah.
Like he really is. He is
Yes.
very order, but he's not stupid either. Because like his characters are actually well thought out until I show up and I counterspell him from the bathroom. That's a whole nother.
Yeah.
You know, that's chaotic. That's true
and
chaos.
He's also not, even though he would be the one that might fireball the party or kill the small child with a lightning lash. He is not very chaotic in general.
No.
Okay.
So yeah, he's very much on the orderly side.
Felix Fizzlebeck. We had him in here about 2 months ago.
See, now Felix is an agent of chaos and a rules lawyer.
He's very much like
No.
Macaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but he's not stupid.
Well, I wouldn't put him in. He doesn't do that. He doesn't throw the wrench very often, so he may be more on the line between the order and the stupid.
Order than the chaos, you mean?
Or-
Like
or
more
the-
more
yeah,
push
more-
towards that line
yeah.
than anywhere near the stupid.
Yeah, he kind of avoids the stupidity riffraff stuff that sometimes we get into.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sometimes?
Yeah.
Just sometimes.
Yeah.
When
But
it's only been 30 minutes. We haven't done
'Cause,
anything dumb just
he's-
yet.
Yeah, he's the power gamer, rules lawyer. I think that may strongly put him into the order side.
He is order. How
Yeah.
often does he do something? Okay, so when you think of chaos, and here's,
Yeah.
I guess this will help. We got to better define chaos because chaos isn't just simply throwing the wrench into the plan randomly. All right,
Right.
It's well thought out. When I do my chaos, my things are well thought out. Like I was like, all right,
Yeah, they just don't work.
yeah, they never work, and that's fine. But chaos doesn't have to not work either. So I think
Yeah.
when I'm thinking of chaos, I think of a player that's kind of. It's hard to explain to me as a player.
It's more on how it affects your plans and actions tend to be more detrimental to the party.
Okay, that's it. That's what I like. So when your plans, it's whether it's good or bad, because you can be a good chaos player, but you
Yeah.
can't be. You can also be a good or bad order player. The rules may come back. You're playing by the rules, but you do bad things because you may be an evil character or something like that. So so your order is your plans. Your
benefit
plans
the party.
benefit. I wouldn't even say benefit the party because I think there are some times that
Or
chaos
for the good of the party.
for the good of the party.
Yeah, that's
All right. So there we go. That's it. And then stupid,
Don't help nobody.
it doesn't help anybody.
It's nothing's happening. I'm going to make something happen, whether it's good
And
or bad.
almost entertainment based
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so now we have those pillars. All right, so now we're doing Felix. Now Felix, I would think his plans are meant to help the party.
Right.
So
Even
I would
if
say
the party
order.
doesn't want to participate in his plans.
They somehow participate in his plans. So
this is a guy who's changed the map to go and revive his warlock patron rather than going for the treasure cave that they were supposed to go to.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
so there you go. Order. Very much order.
Yeah.
Rava.
Rava
Rava
tends toward order.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
order all the way. Like you got to go back and listen to the
She's-
episode that
yeah.
she's been in, and you're gonna go, yeah, no, that's definitely an ordered style player.
and she also tends to order DM as well.
Yeah. Yeah, she's all order.
Yeah, she's planned and
I
structured.
didn't even think about
and
actually bringing that in as a DM player or as a
Yeah.
DM either. I was just thinking about the player.
She's just planned and structured all the way. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's
Yeah.
What I'm trying to think of who else that we've had. Drava. She's actually
She's towing the line between order and chaos.
she would actually be like the perfect true neutral because she does.
She'd be in the center of that that triangle.
I wouldn't say no because she doesn't really do things that are stupid.
Yeah, she stays away from the stupid.
Yeah, she doesn't do things just
so,
for the entertainment.
So center of that line then between.
Yeah,
the
she's
two.
on the line. She'll definitely be on the line.
She's on the spectrum.
Oh man, she's the dark side of the moon. I sorry about that. That was a good burp. I was just thinking about that though. Players, those 3 pillars. When you said that, it was just something so brilliant, so brilliantly smart, yet so brilliantly dumb that even I could understand. And I was like, oh yeah, no, that works out. The voice of order, the voice of chaos, and the voice of stupidity, and it's perfectly reflected as who we are, not only as hosts, but we also see it as our players. And like you just said, man, DMs. Thinking about that, man. Can you be a stupid DM and actually accomplish something? A pure stupid DM. All right, this is true stupid.
They tend to be the improv style DM where they have nothing planned out ahead of time.
I plan out A to B. That's it. The rest of it is kind of like whatever happens.
Yeah. They'll pick a random page in the monster manual and you're fighting this today.
All right. What about well, how does that differ from the chaos one though?
Oh, the chaos is the one that's trying to kill you.
It's the detriment. Okay, so we're following the same. It's to the detriment of the players. Okay.
Yeah, they're the ones who want to win D&D.
How do you win as the DM though? You're not. I mean,
TPK. That's how you win.
TPK, but you TPK in such a way that it's almost fair.
Yeah,
almost fair.
Yep.
And then what? And so what is order? I just want you guys to. You're almost
I want you to get to level 20.
Come on, guys. Let me hold your hand here. We're gonna take you on, and it's okay. Don't worry. Yeah. Oh, last conversation for this episode. And this is now that I think about the holding your hand and walking you through this. Death in D&D. Should it be as easy? Should it be as hard, or should it be harder? And should it be worth something more? Because I feel like when you come back from death, characters should die.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we don't want to let characters go, and I get that. But you got to send the party out to go try and revive them. Should it be harder than just kind of like a revive spell?
Well, yeah, this kind of goes back to our other conversation, whereas 5e is the least deadly of all the versions of D&D so far. It is very difficult unless a player is tired of his character and wants him to die.
I don't even think that he wants him to die, just to walk off into the sunset.
Yeah,
would be
but
better.
I mean, it's difficult to kill off a player without the player's participation in wanting to be killed off.
I mean,
we'd mentioned your bunny folk getting dropped 4 times in the first fight, down to 0 hit points.
Hey, look, that wasn't my fault,
right?
All right,
right, and you survived. That's how hard it is.
I wanted to break
kill a player these days.
I wanted to break the record of the fastest character killed in a single game, and I think the goblin I had made that record, which was like one round and like blown.
First combat.
First combat, almost like the first round, and he was gone, and I was like, oh, well,
yeah. It is possible to. I'm not saying it's impossible to kill players in this. I'm just saying it is the most difficult, and they kind of have to participate. Like either your party has to choose not to save you, or
what did you do to your party that they didn't want to save you?
I don't know. Ask your goblin.
He was just new to the game. Actually, he was actually probably one of my more charismatic characters because he was actually being toted around in a handbag like he was a little chihuahua.
Yeah,
I love goblins, and not to get off this death topic that we're getting onto, but I love goblins. You know why? Because goblins are aplenty, and when they became a playable race, I thought it was great and hilarious because I was playing a sorcerer at the time, a new fire mage sorcerer that I think was either a homebrew or something that somebody had come out, and I was like, goblins are great. Look at them. You can just pick one up randomly off the ground and I reached down and grabbed a random goblin. I was like, they're everywhere and shaking it around. Yeah. But I think when players die,
characters die.
Yeah, when
players die, it's a completely different thing.
Yeah, that's much more serious topic. We're not getting into.
Yeah.
Anyway, moment of silence for those players. Anyway, so when characters die, when the characters die themselves, shouldn't it be a quest? I think that just a simple revive spell, it's kind of easy. Yeah, and I think that honestly, when you come back, I love Full Metal Alchemist's idea behind this, that you can actually you come back from something.
Yeah.
You lose something from coming back from Death's Gate.
And that's another old edition requirement is every time you were resurrected in the old editions, your constitutions fell 1 point. So that eventually you would get to the point where your constitution was so bad you weren't going to survive the resurrection. Because
we brought you back.
There was a substat of constitution, which was a percentage for resurrection survival, and you had to roll under that percentage. So as your con stat got lower each time, your survivor percentage got lower each time, and eventually you were going to fail and not be able to be resurrected.
And certain things were impossible to be resurrected from. Decapitation was one of them. You couldn't survive it.
Yeah.
Well,
being blown to pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, think about that.
Disintegrate.
I mean, think about that because, you're like you're saying, especially in larger parties, it's kind of harder to kill players and stuff like that. Kill characters. Kill players. Man, I'm really out against the players today. But kill characters. So now you have this idea of like now that they can just death's not scary.
But you can turn that around on them too, because there are certain spells out there where if you have as much as a finger of the person and within 100 years, you can bring them back. So that big bad you just killed, his minions can bring him back.
Yep.
And you're fighting the big bad all over again.
Yeah, I don't know. Death's weird in this game, and I think that's going to have to be a conversation for a whole episode. Death in D&D.
We can get into those slightly more, difficult topics on that, more than just this lighthearted kind of stuff. But I think it's important. I think it's important that you have characters that die. Because if you think around going, you're going to be invincible every time you play D&D, and then the one chaos pillar D&D comes up and kills you in the first combat, you're not going to be enjoying the game like you used to.
Legitimately, and this kind of goes with that chaos theory. Like I'd love to DM, and that's why I want to kind of go back to Pathfinder, because death is a little bit more like realistic in Pathfinder. And the idea behind this is I wanted to create, even start off with kind of like a one shot where you go in and you're there to save this town. And the idea is wrapped around, actually, I was working from the bad guy backwards, and the bad guy, like at the final encounter, is actually this little girl that you met when you first got to the village, and she's sitting there with the bad guy. You now know he's the bad guy. Somehow you got to the point that you know this is the bad guy. We are here to fight him. And you see this girl that was helping you out in the village. And you're like, oh, hey, what are you doing with him? And he's like, oh, this is just like a minion. Watch, these people mean nothing to me. And he kills her right there. Like to show you the consequences of the world and show you that thing is, and like to kill things. Because I think that we don't see enough of it in that way, and now it's getting a little bit, homogenized. Back to that. And that's that kind of chaos into it. Like things have to be, you have to see the real world consequences of the actions of the NPCs. NPCs have consequences to their actions.
Yeah. I mean, that's something I like to do in my games. One of my favorite stories to tell about the old AG is I ran a one shot where the clues were all there to successfully finish the mission without hurting the person who was possessed. They didn't do that. And the guy who did it on a natural 20 and bisected this little 7-year-old girl when he could have just destroyed the necklace that was around her neck.
Yeah.
And it actually affected the player where he's like, oh shit, I could have done something else. I killed this little girl because I made it part of it. Whereas he's cutting into her, it cuts through that necklace, and then she transforms back into the little girl, and she's reaching out and crying and all that, and it affected the player himself. And that's something you can do in game without having to, because it was a low level 1 characters. It introduces the concept of death without actually having to kill a character.
Yeah,
I want to see the difference between mine and yours is you let your players make that mistake. I want to make my villains. I want to make my villains. Like I really. We see this in a lot in these new stories. People are like, "Oh, villains need a redemption arc." You see in Loki, you see Sylvanas, you see all these different ones in these new lores. We're like, "Oh, they just, they were bad guys." No, I want villains to be villains. They were there to be bad, and I want to create this mindset of not only is there the death in this game is real, and you can die right now, like that's the idea. But let me show you how little the bad guys in here they care for anything, and they just murder somebody right there in front of your face, somebody that was there helping you, and that's it. Like death needs to be felt.
Yeah, the only caveat I would have to that is that character death needs to have a meaning other than a bad die roll.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know in a lot of the old modules, they had certain traps where you failed to detect this trap, your party's trapped in this room and suffocates, the whole party dies TPK off of one missed trap.
I think that's a little far.
Yeah,
I'll give
that's
you
what
that
I'm getting
one.
at.
That one's a little
could be,
far.
That could be more
Now,
real
poor
life,
decision.
but-
Poor decision. I'll kill a player for poor decision making any day of the week. You know that.
I think that one's a little far.
Yeah.
I think there should be a way out. But
Exactly.
But
Well,
That's some of the old modules. That's the way they were written. I'm blanking on. I mean, this is a specific. Was it the original Tomb of Annihilation?
Tomb of Horrors. Tomb of Horrors had something similar, but I don't know if it was that exact thing.
I'm blanking on which one it was, but it was one of the original modules that was very popular.
yeah.
You didn't detect the trap when you went into this room. You triggered a stone wall closing over the door, so you couldn't get out, and you were too low of a level if you were running this module to have a gate or a teleport or something that would let you out. And it was an automatic TPK for your party for detecting that one trigger and triggering it, and you were done. That was a published official module from
Wizards.
I think it was
TSR
at the
yeah.
time, but yeah. So I disagree with those. But if the character is making a decision that is obviously risking his life,
I'm going to cast Fireball at my feet.
Yeah,
you're going to burn up then.
Then you're going to burn. Yeah.
Alrighty. You know what we didn't miss, and I want to make a shout out to these guys. It's the Phoenix Emporium guys. If you guys are looking for anything, whether it's Magic the Gathering, D&D, or you're just in for regular tabletop games, go check out our friends over at Phoenix Emporium. They're going to take care of you guys. Also, the D&D Dice Shop. I am actually eyeing a pair of dice right now. It's called the Ship Happens die. They look great. They've got little tiny ships inside. They're not a paid sponsor, but I wish they were because those, I'm actually getting ready to go buy those.
Yeah, dnddice.com. I bought some dice for my wife and I, and then a set for my dad back on Father's Day. And it's really cool. They send you like stickers. The invoice for your dice comes on the back of a character sheet that they made. It's really, really nice.
Yeah. So make sure you guys go find us on Facebook, Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything. If you just Google us, you'll find us right at the top of the page. You're going to also be able to find us on YouTube. By now, you'll see that we've gotten more of the episodes uploaded. I'm pretty proud of myself for being better about it. Not great. We're going to get up to date and all the good episodes in there. Now, one last thing that I do want to mention before, take time, email us out, be looking forward to us. We got big things coming up. With that being said, it's time to end this episode. We appreciate everybody out there. Say goodbye, Bolgg.
Goodbye, Bolgg.
Say goodbye, Loke.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
We appreciate you listening to Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything, featuring Loke the Bard, of course. Make sure you go find us on Facebook to see what old concoctions Bolgg is cooking up in the kitchen. And if you want your emails read, then email us at bolgandpc@gmail.com. And as always, happy adventures. Yarr!